The Galactic Empire stretched across the stars like a great shadow. Thousands of worlds bent to its rule, and hundreds of species lived under its iron grip. To many, the Empire seemed eternal, unshakable and absolute. Its fleets could crush rebellions before they even began, and its admirals believed no power could challenge them. But even in such a vast empire, whispers carried in the dark, in hidden corners of space, smugglers, traders, and wandering explorers spoke of strange encounters. A ship seen on the edge of scanners gone before identification. A signal picked up, faint but ancient, written in codes long forgotten. Some called it nonsense, others called it ghosts, but a few gave it a name: humanity. The Empire taught that humans were gone, erased in wars of the past. According to their history, Earth had been destroyed, its people scattered and broken. They said humans were a reckless species, too violent, too unpredictable, and too dangerous to be allowed to live. The Council had declared their extinction final, and most believed it. Yet there was fear. Fear that humans were not gone at all. Fear that somewhere hidden in the endless dark they waited. The Empire did not like to admit it, but deep inside its leaders knew the truth of their own cruelty. They had tried to burn humanity from existence. But what if the fire had not finished its work? One quiet evening, on the lonely border station of Drelon 7, fear became reality. Commander Vaylon stood at the observation deck, staring at the empty stars. His station guarded a sector no one cared for, a place where patrols were rare and traffic even rarer. His duty was dull, his days long. He often told himself nothing would ever happen here. Then the alarm sounded. Unidentified signal detected, the officer at the console shouted. His voice shook. Origin. Unknown, Vaylon frowned. Unknown? That's impossible. Run the scans again. The officer's hands trembled as he worked. It's old, Commander, very old. The frequency is ancient. Pre-imperial, I think it's human. The word struck the room like a blade. The crew froze, staring at one another, unsure if they had heard correctly. Human? Vaylon whispered. His throat felt dry. That's not possible. They're gone. But the signal grew stronger. A steady pulse. A heartbeat in the void. And then, out of the darkness it appeared. A ship. At first it looked like a shadow, a dark shape emerging from the endless black. Then the light of the nearby star revealed it. Massive, silent. Its armor was scarred, blackened from ancient battles. Strange markings lined its hull, symbols the younger crew did not recognize, but Vaylon did. He had studied forbidden archives. He had seen fragments of old records. It was human writing. The warship moved slowly, with the weight of a predator that did not fear being seen. No Imperial design looked like this. It was old, brutal, and terrifyingly alive by the stars. One officer whispered, his voice breaking. It's real. The comms crackled. For a moment, only static filled the room. Then a voice came through, deep, calm, steady. Not the voice of a ghost, but of something very real. This is the UNS Retribution. Humanity lives, and we do not forget. The words sank into every ear, every heart. The room fell into silence. Vaylon felt his chest tighten. The Empire had always laughed at rumors, always mocked the idea of humanity's survival. But now here it was, a living relic of the past, a warship thought impossible. One ship should not have mattered to the mighty Empire. But Vaylon knew better. If one had survived, then others might have too. If this ship had come, more would follow, and that was the nightmare the Empire had always feared. The whispers were true. Humanity was back, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The border station Drelon 7 had never felt so small. Its walls trembled as the massive shadow of the human warship drifted closer. The crew watched in silence, their faces pale, their breaths shallow. None of them had ever seen a ship like this before. It looked ancient, but it also looked indestructible. Commander Vaylon stood stiff, trying to control the fear in his chest. He had faced pirates, smugglers, even rebels in his career, but nothing had shaken him like this. Every instinct screamed that he was standing in front of something beyond his control. Open a channel, Vaylon ordered. Though his voice cracked slightly, the comms officer obeyed, his fingers trembling as he activated the system. Channel open, Commander. Vaylon leaned forward, his voice stern, though inside he felt like a child speaking to a ghost. Unidentified vessel, you are in Imperial space. Identify yourself or we will consider you hostile. For a long moment there was no reply. Only the quiet hum of the station's systems filled the room. Then the speakers crackled with static before a voice came through. "This is the UNS Retribution. Humanity lives, and we do not forget." The words struck the crew like thunder. A few gasped. One young officer nearly fainted. Phelan swallowed hard. He knew the name. UNS, United Nations ship. It was a designation buried in forbidden history. He remembered reading about it in secret files during his academy days, when he was too curious for his own good. Ships like this had once patrolled the stars long before the Empire rose to power. Ships crewed by humans, the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever known. "I repeat," the human voice continued, "humanity lives." The signal was strong, the tone calm, but beneath it there was something else. An edge of iron. These were not lost wanderers begging for help. These were warriors reminding the galaxy of their existence. The crew whispered among themselves. "They're supposed to be extinct. It can't be real, but what if—" Silence. Phelan snapped, though his own hands shook behind his back. He activated the channel again. "Human vessel, this is Imperial Station Draylen 7. Your kind has no right to be here. You will power down your weapons and prepare for inspection." The reply was immediate, calm, and chilling. No. One word. Simple. Final. It was not the answer of a weak people. It was the answer of a species that had endured something the Empire could not understand. Phelan hesitated. He could order an attack, but one glance at the ship told him it would be suicide. Its armor bore scars of battles against enemies far stronger than anything the Empire had ever faced. Its weapons, though old, radiated an energy that felt like death waiting to be unleashed. Still, his duty was clear. "Signal the fleet," he whispered to his second-in-command. Tell them humanity has returned." The officer's eyes widened. "Commander, the Council said they were extinct." "If we send this report—" "Do it," Phelan said, his voice heavy. "This is bigger than us." Outside, the Retribution remained silent, drifting like a predator in the dark. It did not attack. It did not retreat. It simply waited, as though daring the Empire to make the first move. Hours passed, and fear spread through the station like fire. Every creak of metal, every flicker of light felt like a warning. The crew could not take their eyes off the warship. It was too real, too alive, and it should not have been there. When the first response came from the Empire, Phelan almost wished it hadn't. The order was short and merciless. "Hold position. Reinforcements are coming. Do not engage." The Empire never sent reinforcements for a single ship. Never. Unless they were afraid. And that was when Phelan understood something that chilled him to the bone. The Council had always feared this day. They had always known the humans might return. Now they had. And the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. The orders from the Empire arrived quickly. Reinforcements had already been sent, and within days the calm emptiness of the border sector turned into a storm of steel. 20 Imperial warships arrived in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with the pride of an empire that believed it was untouchable. From the command bridge of Draylen 7, Commander Phelan watched the fleet enter position. The void outside was now filled with Imperial power, rows of destroyers and cruisers standing like an iron wall. At their center stood an Imperial battleship, its commander arrogant and confident. The crew of the station whispered among themselves. Some were relieved to see the fleet arrive. Others, quieter, looked at the single human warship and felt their fear only grow stronger. The human ship, the UNS Retribution, did not move. It did not retreat. It hung in the void like a silent predator, waiting as if it already knew what was coming. Admiral Cravel, in charge of the Imperial fleet, laughed when he saw it. "One ship?" He mocked through the comms. "This is what the Empire fears, a relic? We will crush it in minutes." His officers nodded, their faces glowing with confidence, but they did not see the tension in Commander Phelan's eyes. He had studied the ship closely. The scars on its armor told stories. It had fought enemies the Empire had never faced. It had survived battles that would have turned Imperial fleets to dust. Still, the order came. All ships target the human warship. Fire at will. The silence of space broke. 20 Imperial vessels lit up the void with streams of burning plasma and screaming missiles. The sky seemed to tear apart under the weight of their firepower. For a moment, the humans did not respond. The station crew leaned forward, expecting to see the relic torn apart. But then it moved. The Retribution glided forward with a grace no one expected from such an ancient vessel. Its shields flared, holding against the rain of plasma. Then with terrifying precision it fired. One shot. Just one. A beam of white light tore through an Imperial cruiser. The ship exploded instantly, its hull split in half, its fire dying silently in the void. The station gasped. One strike and a warship was gone. The Imperial fleet did not retreat. Instead, they fired harder, desperate to prove their strength. But the Retribution moved with the patience of a hunter. It weaved through the battlefield, every shot it fired finding its mark. Another cruiser shattered, then a destroyer, then two more. Panic spread through the Imperial ranks. Shields failing. We can't track its movement. Admiral, it's cutting through us. Admiral Cravel roared in anger. Hold formation. It's only one ship. But numbers meant nothing. The human vessel fought like it had been born for war. Its weapons were older, slower even, but they hit with terrifying accuracy. Every blast carried the weight of fury, as though the ship itself remembered humanity's pain. From the station, Commander Valon watched in silence, his heart racing. He had never seen anything like it. Imperial fleets were supposed to be unstoppable. Yet here, against a single human warship, they looked weak and clumsy. Minutes felt like hours. One by one, Imperial ships fell. Fire bloomed across the darkness, bright and silent like dying stars. The humans showed no mercy. They did not flee. They did not falter. Finally, what was left of the fleet broke. The survivors turned and ran, engines burning as they fled into hyperspace. The once proud fleet was now scattered wreckage. The void grew quiet again. Only the UNS Retribution remained, drifting calmly, its guns cooling, its scars glowing faintly in the starlight. On the station bridge, no one spoke. The silence was heavier than any words. Commander Valon gripped the railing, his mind racing. He understood now why the Council feared humanity. If this was what one ship could do, then what about a fleet? What about an entire armada hidden in the dark, waiting to strike? The whispers were true. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not extinct, they were predators. And the galaxy had just seen their teeth. The battle at Dreelan 7 should have been forgotten like all other border skirmishes. Normally, the Empire buried such events, erasing them from history and silencing every survivor. But this time the story spread like fire. Soldiers who escaped carried the tale. Traders whispered it at docking bays. Slaves sang it in the mines. One human warship had defeated 20 Imperial ships. At first, many laughed. Impossible, they said. No vessel can stand against the Empire. But the laughter never lasted. Too many witnesses had seen the truth. Too many signals had been recorded. And deep down, everyone knew there had always been whispers. Now the whispers had become proof. On a mining colony in the Outer Rim, workers huddled together after their shift. The guards barked orders, but the miners ignored them for once. They whispered in secret voices. A human ship appeared. It destroyed the Empire's fleet. They live. For the first time in years, the slaves did not speak of despair. They spoke of hope. In the great city worlds of the core, senators argued behind closed doors. It's only one ship, some insisted. It cannot threaten the Empire. But others shifted uneasily. If one ship could humiliate an entire fleet, what would happen if more arrived? Could the Empire fall? On the battle stations and garrisons, soldiers who once stood tall now hesitated. Orders to patrol the outer systems were met with unease. What if the humans are out there? They asked. Their commanders barked at them, calling them cowards, but the fear never left their eyes. Even among the highest ranks, the fear was real. The council met in secret chambers, their voices filled with tension. We cannot allow this news to spread, said one elder. If the people believe humans live, rebellion will spark. It is already too late, replied another. Hope has escaped into the stars, and nothing travels faster than hope. They argued, but none spoke the truth that burned in their hearts. They had betrayed humanity long ago. They had declared them too dangerous to exist, too powerful to control. The Empire had destroyed Earth and hunted the colonies until nothing was left. Or so they believed. Now the ghosts had returned, not as broken survivors, but as hunters. The Council's greatest weapon had always been fear. Fear kept the species under control. Fear kept soldiers loyal, fear kept the galaxy quiet. But for the first time, fear was no longer on their side. It belonged to humanity. Commander Valen, still on Draylen 7, felt the change in the air. His crew no longer spoke loudly. They whispered, glancing nervously at the void beyond the station windows. Every flicker on the scanners made them flinch. He tried to keep discipline, but even he could not escape the weight pressing on his chest. The image of the retribution haunted his mind. One ship standing alone, yet carrying the strength of 1,000. It had not looked afraid. It had not begged for peace. It had looked like a predator tasting blood after centuries of silence. Valen wondered how many more ships were waiting out there, hidden in the dark corners of the galaxy. 10, 100? An entire fleet? And he wondered something even more dangerous. What if the humans were not just hiding? What if they had been preparing? Across the stars, rebellion stirred. On slave worlds, chains suddenly felt weaker. On conquered planets, anger flared brighter. On Imperial ships, officers began to question orders. The Empire was mighty, but its strength rested on one fragile foundation, the belief that no one could stand against it. The humans had shattered that belief in a single battle. The galaxy had changed. From the shadows of space, one warship had brought back the most dangerous weapon of all, hope. And hope was something the Empire could never control. The galaxy was restless. Whispers of the human warship grew louder each day, spreading from one world to another like wildfire. The Council tried to silence it, but truth is a river that cannot be dammed. Traitors carried the tale. Soldiers brought it home, and the conquered species, who had long lived under the Empire's heel, now spoke the name of humanity with trembling voices filled with wonder. Then the broadcast came. It began without warning. Across Imperial space, comm channels went silent and screens flickered with static. On mining colonies and orbital stations, on starships and city worlds, people looked up as the static cleared. A symbol appeared first, strange to some, but instantly recognized by those who had studied the old records. A blue and green sphere split by olive branches. Earth's emblem forgotten by the galaxy, reborn in fire. Then a voice filled the silence. It was human, calm, steady, heavy with age and power. This is the UNS Retribution. Humanity lives. Everywhere people froze. Soldiers dropped their weapons. Slaves stopped working. Families stared at screens in awe. The voice continued. We remember Earth. We remember the burning of our homeworld. We remember the betrayal.
You thought we were gone.
You thought you had ended us. But humanity does not die so easily. We survived in the dark. We endured in silence. And now we return. Not as victims, but as witnesses. The words carried weight that no imperial speech had ever held. They were not just a declaration, they were a wound reopening after centuries, bleeding across the stars. The message grew sharper. To the people of the Empire, we see your chains. We hear your cries. You are not alone. Humanity remembers what it means to fight. Humanity remembers what it means to resist. And when the time comes, we will stand with you. On slave worlds, the message was met with cheers. Miners banged their tools against stone. Farmers raised fists to the sky. Mothers hugged their children, whispering, "Hope has returned." To the Council, the human voice said, colder now, "We have not forgotten your crimes. You burned our colonies. You destroyed our worlds. You hunted us like animals. But still we live. And we do not forgive. Watch the skies, for every star hides a shadow. Watch your fleets, for your enemy may already be among you. The day will come when your empire trembles, and when it does, humanity will be there to strike." The transmission ended with silence. No demands, no promises of peace. Only the reminder that the forgotten had returned. The effect was immediate. Across the galaxy, the broadcast spread faster than the Council could block it. It replayed in secret gatherings, in slave quarters, in dark taverns, and even in the quiet homes of imperial citizens. The name of humanity became more than rumor. It became a symbol. On Draylen 7, Commander Valen heard the message with his crew. He stood in silence as the words sank into him. He had sworn loyalty to the Empire all his life, but he felt something stir inside him as he listened. Something dangerous. A spark of respect. A spark of fear. And something even worse. Hope. His officers looked at him, their eyes wide. "Commander, do you think they mean it? Do you think they will come for the Empire?" Valen could not answer. He only stared out at the stars where the Retribution still drifted, silent and waiting. The Council, meanwhile, panicked. They ordered fleets doubled on the borders, security tightened, broadcasts jammed. But it was useless. The message had already taken root in the hearts of billions. For the first time in centuries, the Empire felt fragile, not because of weapons or fleets, but because of words. The humans had given the galaxy something the Empire had always crushed. They had given them hope, and once hope takes root, it can never be silenced. The Council did not sleep after the human broadcast. For days, their chambers echoed with anger and fear. The elders demanded silence, demanded order, but their voices trembled. They had ruled the galaxy for centuries, yet never had a single message shaken their grip so deeply. Their response was swift and brutal. More fleets were dispatched to the outer sectors. Stronger fleets, battleships and carriers escorted by swarms of destroyers, spread across the stars like a net of iron. Their orders were clear: find the human ship and destroy it. Admirals barked commands with false pride, assuring their crews that the relic would not last against the might of the Empire. But beneath the surface, unease gnawed at them. They had all seen the reports. One ship had destroyed 20. Numbers no longer felt safe. And still the retribution appeared. It struck without warning, emerging from the void like a ghost. One moment the scanners were clear, the next the human warship was upon them. Its weapons glowed, its hull scarred but unyielding. In minutes, Imperial ships turned into wreckage. Then, before reinforcements could arrive, the retribution was gone, vanishing back into the darkness. It was not just fighting. It was hunting. On one border world, an entire garrison fleet was destroyed in less than an hour. Survivors whispered of weapons they could not track, of tactics they could not understand. They spoke of a ship that moved like it knew every weakness in their formation. On another front, a convoy carrying supplies to the Empire's heart vanished. The wrecks were found drifting, scorched by weapons no Imperial design could match. The only clue was a burned emblem left floating among the debris, the old Earth symbol. Fear began to eat away at the Empire's strength. Soldiers deserted their posts. Pilots hesitated to launch. Captains delayed their patrols, pretending their engines needed repair. None of them wanted to face the ghost ship in the dark. Even the people of the core felt it. In the great cities, once proud and loud, voices grew quiet. Parents warned their children not to speak the name of humanity too loudly, as if the very word carried danger. Yet in secret the name was spoken more than ever, sometimes in fear, sometimes in hope. Commander Veylan felt the change most of all. Still stationed at Drelon 7, he watched the reports flood in, fleet after fleet destroyed, colonies whispering rebellion. The Council growing desperate. Every time the retribution struck, he felt torn. Part of him wanted to remain loyal to the Empire, to believe in its power. But another part of him, stronger with each passing day, could not ignore the truth. Humanity was proving something no other species had dared to. The Empire was not invincible, and that thought alone was more dangerous than any weapon. The Council issued more commands. They spoke of crushing humanity once and for all, yet their voices betrayed them. They sounded less like rulers giving orders and more like prey trying to convince itself it was not hunted. Then came the darkest sign of all. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Empire's fleets refused to follow orders. When told to chase the retribution into uncharted space, entire groups of ships turned back, unwilling to vanish like the others. Admirals filed false reports claiming fuel shortages or damaged engines. But the truth was clear. They were afraid. The humans had not just struck the Empire's fleets. They had struck its heart. They had cracked the illusion of eternal strength. And so the galaxy changed. Species long silent began to whisper of revolt. Traders carried more than goods, they carried stories of human victories. Slaves worked with new fire in their eyes, their chains suddenly feeling lighter, all because of one ship. The UNS Retribution had become more than steel and weapons. It had become a symbol, a shadow in the night, a promise that the Empire could fall. And in every corner of the galaxy, one question echoed louder each day. If one ship can do this, what happens when the rest of humanity arrives? The Council gathered one last time. Their chambers, once filled with pride and luxury, now felt like a cage of fear. Reports of defeat filled the air. Fleets destroyed. Colonies whispering rebellion. Borders slipping from their grip. And always, the same name haunting them. the human warship. "This ends now," one elder hissed, though his voice shook. "We cannot be ruled by a ghost." So they planned their final trap. The Empire gathered its largest fleet in 1,000 years, thousands of ships, forged and armed with every weapon they had. They spread their fleet across the stars like a wall of fire, waiting for the retribution to appear. When the human ship finally came, silence fell. It appeared in the dark as always, sudden and unyielding. The UNS Retribution, scarred from battles, its hull glowing with the burn of old fire. Alone, it faced the greatest force the Empire had ever assembled. Admirals sneered, telling themselves it was finally over. They gave the order. The galaxy shook. Beams of light, torpedoes, and storms of plasma filled the void. The Retribution vanished inside the blaze. For a moment it seemed the Empire had won, but then the fire cleared. The Retribution still stood. Its shields flickered, its armor cracked, but its weapons were alive. It answered the storm with a roar. Entire lines of Imperial ships tore apart, burning like dying suns. And then something no one expected happened. More ships appeared. First 10, then 100, then thousands. Warships, cruisers, carriers, all bearing the same symbol as the Retribution. The symbol of Earth. Humanity's fleet had arrived. The galaxy froze in shock. For so long they had believed humanity gone, wiped out, a ghost of history. But the truth was different. Humanity had not been destroyed, they had been waiting, watching, building. And now they came not as victims, but as a storm. Commander Velan watched from his station at Drelon 7 as the message spread across every channel. Humanity is here. He felt his chest tighten. In that moment he knew the Empire was finished. The battle was not a battle. It was an ending. The human fleet moved with unity no one had ever seen. Their ships did not scatter like prey. They struck like a single hand, each movement precise, each strike devastating. Imperial ships, no matter their numbers, fell like brittle glass. The Council screamed orders, but their fleets no longer listened. Captains abandoned their posts. Admirals begged for retreat. Some ships even turned their guns on each other in blind panic. And through it all, the Retribution led the charge. Its commander, unseen and unknown, carried the voice of an entire species. A species that had endured exile, war, and silence, only to return stronger than ever. When the last Imperial flagship fell, burning into the void, silence covered the stars. The Empire, once eternal, was broken, but humanity did not speak of conquest. Their message, broadcast across every world, was simple. We are not here to rule. We are here to end the rule of fear. Those words spread like fire. To slaves, it was freedom. To rebels, it was hope. To rulers who had built empires on chains, it was terror. Commander Velan sat in silence after hearing the message. His heart, heavy with years of service to the Council, felt lighter for the first time. He knew his people would rise. The galaxy would rise. And in that moment, every species understood a truth the Council had tried to bury. The Empire's worst fear had come true. Humanity had returned, but they were no longer shadows in the dark. They were the storm that ended an age.